First, we need to follow the money. Here in Cuba, there are two currencies. There's the peso, or the national currency, and if you work for the government, you're paid in pesos. And then there's the convertible peso. It's called CUC, and it's pegged to the dollar. CUC is the currency that tourists use. And here's the deal. The CUC is worth 25 times more than the peso. And this difference...
Rabble Rabble show, I got chat to them, I made them chat for it. Rabble Rabble, you don't know say the one and only National Rabble Danger. And on this platform, we do things different. Rabblings, with all that's going on in the world right now, with our medical doctors and nurses on the front line, would you believe me if I tell you that a taxi driver earns more than a medical doctor in Cuba? So with that, you find a lot of doctors converting or tapping into other professions outside of medical. And that's sad because we all need our doctors, don't it? It is said since 1959 when Fidel Castro take over Cuba, he seized all private businesses, restaurants, hotels, hospitals, the land of Cuba itself. So to earn more than the average Cuban, you have to have a private license. So taxi drivers, other than construction workers and some small businesses, were granted the privilege to have a private license up to this time. So you find that they're likely to earn more than a medical doctor. Rabble Rabble, straight rabbling, spree this.
You earn more money working in the driver taxi
than the economist.
Yes.
Taxi drivers are entrepreneurs here because they're running their own business. They make more money in a day than most professions make in a month. And so you'll get into a taxi cab here and the driver is a doctor, an economist, an engineer, and they've gone from making $60 or so a month to making $100 a day.
I sacrifice my study, but I earn more money. That's the way that I look at it.
You are happier in this job making more money as a taxi driver than as an economist.
Yes.
There's no comparison, so brilliant people are leaving their professions to drive taxis here.
But how did driving a taxi become one of the most lucrative private businesses in Cuba? Well, that's what we're out to explore. First, we need to follow the money. Here in Cuba, there are two currencies. There's the peso, or the national currency, and if you work for the government, you're paid in pesos. And then there's the convertible peso. It's called CUC, and it's pegged to the dollar. CUC is the currency that tourists use. And here's the deal. The CUC is worth 25 times more than the peso. And this difference in currency has created essentially two different economies. Lorenzo, our economist taxi driver, he lives in the world of the CUC driving taxis. So for him, it wasn't worth it to take a state job with its pesos. But I'm curious how it is for other taxi drivers.
¿Qué te gusta más, si manejar o trabajar en el campo?
Oh, conductor.
¿Sí? ¿Por qué?
Porque vestido de limpio, tranquilo.
¿Y más dinero? You make more money this way. So you make 80 cook in un día.
Oh,
Okay.
Antes en Guantánamo, la construcción.
¿Te gusta la construcción o
Taxi
taxi?
mejor, mucho mejor. Se define La Habana, porque en La Habana hay mucho más dinero en Guantánamo.
All of my taxi drivers have been men. Then I met a woman driving one of the oldest cars I'd seen on the road. She'd been a doctor. She says she'll tell me what it's been like to make such a big transition. Elise and so many drivers are building on a legacy that began in the 1990s. Classic cars and their taxi drivers helped rescue Cuba's economy and played a key role in Cuba having private businesses at all.
It's expensive. For Cuban people, it's expensive. Not foreign people can do it. That only Cuban people, only resident in Cuba. Oh, okay. But the price, perhaps 100,000 CUC or US.
100,000 for an apartment.
For apartment.
How does a local person earn so much?
Sorry.
How can you earn 100,000?
Many people in Cuba have family in US or Europe,
Overseas.
or I don't know. and the people send money for do that. Okay?
That's a lot though.
Or any people have a business in Cuba, private business.
You get to keep the profit.
Okay.
I thought if you make money here, then you have to give it back to the government.
I don't understand.
If you have a business
Okay.
and you make a lot of money,
Okay.
you keep the money or you give it to the government?
You need paid tax for the government. For example, I'm electrical engineer, but this job, taxi driver, is my second job.
So you're an engineer.
Yes, I'm electrical engineer. I pay for the government tax for this job.
Okay. So do you work as electrical engineer as well?
Yes.
Uh-huh. So you own this car?
Huh?
This is your car, not a
It's my
government car?
No, not
Okay.
the government car, it's my car.
So you're not working today. What's
No.
the
No electrical work
Normally,
today.
I work with the government by a contract. I'm inspector for the power lines, power substation.
yeah.
When the building,
When they make it?
when I make it, I contract with the government for checking and
Okay.
sign the
Quality
price
is okay.
and anything.
Okay.
So do you earn more from taxi or from electrical?
From taxi.
So you did
The
university
pay
in...
for the government is too low. For example, for 1 month, perhaps 100 CUC, no more. If I work for the in my taxi, perhaps in a month, I obtain 250, 300. Free for me.
No tax.
Not after the tax. Not after the pay tax. Okay?
And you need to pay them like some license to have the taxi?
Yes.
Is
I
that
have to
every
pay-
month or percent?
No, one time a year.
Okay.
And the little coconut taxi, same?
No, little coconut taxi is government taxes.
Ah, and a lot of women.
A lot of women. It's a strategy for
More friendly.
mud friendly. Exactly.
How much?
So if you get rich, can you buy 10 taxis and 20 taxis and...
If you want.
But when you first start to drive the taxi, then you have to buy it. So you have to save from your government job or... Complicated?
Little complicated. Normally in Cuba, if you want to buy a car, you need to have a permission for the government.
Okay.
Okay? Work in Venezuela for 1 year. For the government, for Cuban government, send me to Venezuela to work in Venezuela.
Okay.
You understand?
Yep.
After that, the government gives me a permission for buy a car.
Rabble Rabble, no fear for tell them say you hear it, yeah, so remember to like, share and subscribe. Straight Rabblings.